morning, everybody. Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Eers. Mountain Ears now, and it's that time of the year. Transfer portal has officially opened. Guys are going in left and right. Offers are being made left and right in every which way. And we've got it all covered for you, so don't fret. We've all got it in one spot. I actually made a transfer portal tracker, I guess is what we're calling it. So if you want to go and find out who the Mountaineers are losing to the portal, who they have grabbed, which they haven't got any yet, but it will be there, and also who they are targeting, it's all in one spot. If you go to my Twitter or my X account, which is Callahan_, it's the pinned tweet at the very top of my profile. So if you want to check that out, that'll give you all the information that you pretty much need in terms of the transfer portal coverage. So the one question that I've kind of gotten over and over again over the last couple of weeks has been, does West Virginia have enough resources to be able to keep its talent? And it's kind of a tough question because we really don't know the actual numbers to all of this. People can say they know, but the reality is it's just not the case. Nobody knows except for the people that are in the trust and that are actually handling the money. So the sense that I've kind of gotten is that they are in a much better position than they were a year ago, in a much, much better position than they were 2 or 3 years ago. So although I don't think it's quite where they want it to be, it can always get better. I don't think that the fear is quite as high as what it was. And I don't feel like there's going to be as much of a surprise when guys go to the portal. There's always going to be one or two that take you off guard and probably even take the coaching staff off guard. And I think Neil even mentioned that a couple of weeks ago on this coaches show. It's going to happen. It's the world that we live in. But for the most part, they kind of have a really good idea as to what guys are probably going to enter the portal and those who will. They also probably have a good idea as to which guys they're going to be able to keep. So I don't feel like you're going to see a needle mover like we've seen in years past, whether it was the Tyke Smiths of the world or the Drayshawn Millers, the Akeem Messidors. You could maybe even kind of throw Caden Prather into that bucket as well. I just don't sense that we're going to see that type of a transfer happen out of the program. It could. I'm not going to rule it out, but I don't feel like that is what we'll see this year. Most of the young core, the Jaheim Whites, Rodney Gallagher's, Traylon Rays, Trey Lathans, Ben Cutters, those types of guys, they saw significant playing time earlier in their career. They played exceptionally well, and they are already a part of what looks to be the turn of this program. Sure, there's going to be people that come knocking at their door illegally. And what I mean by that is teams are not allowed to come in and start calling your players when they're on your roster. If they're not in the portal, they can't be called. They can't be touched, but it's going to happen. It happens every year. But I don't feel like there's a necessary need for those guys to look elsewhere. In some guys' cases, you're taking a major risk because you came in, you either started right away as a redshirt freshman or true freshman, or you kind of earned your way into that starting role, and there's no doubt that you're going to have that next year if you return. Having to go somewhere else and having to learn a new system and compete for playing time, compete for a starting role, it's a major risk. And that's not to say that there's kids that won't take that risk. We see it every single day. But I think with the major pieces that fans are probably worried about, Jaheim White, again, this is purely speculating here, is probably going to get whatever he wants. in the NIL realm of this. If it becomes a situation where folks within the trust are concerned about him maybe flirting with the portal, or if there's a fear that teams are maybe going to start contacting him, which they may have already done. I have no idea. Again, it's pure speculation that they're going to find out what he needs to be taken care of. Same thing with Rodney Gallagher, same thing with Traylon Ray. And again, with these guys, I don't think you're talking millions of dollars here. Now, they could ask for that, but I don't think they would get that here, not at this juncture. Um, I just think it would be incredibly insane. I mean, we heard Matt Rule say, I think last week, that starting quarterbacks, really good starting quarterbacks, are going for $1.5, $2 million in the portal. We're talking about guys that really didn't get into that starting lineup until the back half of this season. Now, they're great talents. Jaheim White may be a future all league back and one of the best running backs in the country, but he's only had a few games under his belt. You can't really project that out and say, yes, he's worth millions of dollars. Can that be something he earns down the road? Yes, absolutely. He's going to be worth it, I believe, at some point. But right now, I don't think that's where those numbers are going to be coming in. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about. I mean, maybe some of these other big time schools come in and they have the money to throw around and say, hey, you can come on down here and you may end up being our third string, receiver or running back or whatever the case may be, but you're going to get, $500,000-$600,000. This is completely different in terms of how much each school can pay for each position and the type of player that you're getting. Are you going to be willing to pay this much for a starter? Are you going to be able to pay this much for a backup? Everyone's budget is different. That's why it's really hard to gauge. Plus the unknown, which is the money that's going into these funds and these trusts. But I think West Virginia will be fine. I think when we get through the end of December, which is pretty much the month that everyone's kind of aiming to get through. If you can get through the month of December and you have the bulk, I don't even want to put a percentage on it, but if you have the bulk of your key contributors and your starters back and they're not going anywhere, you got to feel pretty good about where you sit, because you're going to be adding some pieces in the month of December as well. Most of West Virginia's transfer class last year came in December or committed in December. So you kind of had that figured out. You also have signing day, the early signing period for high school kids, December 20th. So you're really going to have a pretty good feeling about what this roster will look like at the end of December. You're going to have a few stragglers when we get to the spring, but I think by then you can kind of manage at that point. This is really when the floodgates open. If you can get past this and you're in a good stance, you like your chances. The thing that I would say about whether or not West Virginia has the resources or not is, I think the trust put out a couple of days ago, and they may have updated it since I'm recording this here on Monday evening, but I think there was about 800 or so people that are members of the trust that are donating either monthly or weekly, or however it goes. I'm honestly not too sure of how that system is set up. I haven't really looked into it. I don't know when the donations go in, how often, all that good stuff. But I do know it is very affordable. And if you are one of those folks that are able to contribute to that, then I would suggest that if you're someone that plans on having a very stern opinion of what happens in the transfer portal or what doesn't happen in the transfer portal, then you need to contribute. It's basically like the voting thing, right? If you're going to complain about what happens, you better vote, because at least you can say you had your say in it. You can't not vote and then complain about it later. So I think when you look at how much passion exists in this West Virginia fan base, it it trumps a lot of different um, schools in the area. It trumps a lot of even pro teams in the area. This is a place that has been known for its strong and passionate fan base. There's no reason why that West Virginia should struggle in terms of this new era that we're going into. And I get West Virginia is not one of the richest states in the U.S. I get that, but passion kind of really shows when stuff like this happens, where you have to essentially pay for your team. And I don't know that we'll ever go back. I don't think we ever will go back. I mean, quite frankly, this is something that should have happened years ago. Now, I think the structure of it probably isn't the best. It's got to have some policing to it, and I think really the NIL was more set up for the opportunities to go out and make money, for a player to go and do a commercial with a local business within the state or within the community. And I think that's what it was intended for. Now we're getting this situation where you're just getting paid to play is what has essentially become. And that too, I don't know that you can walk back from that either. So this is the world we live in. So again, if you're going to have an opinion about it, you you have to be able to put your money where your mouth is if you are able. So I think 800 or so members of the or donators or whatever you want to call it, pledgers to the trust. That's a low number in my opinion. It can be significantly higher. It should be significantly higher. Why it's only 800, some I don't know. But I think that itself could be the saving grace of this football team. There's obviously the big donors out there that'll still do their part, and when things get down to it, if something needs to happen, I'm sure they'll be able to make those things work. But there's no reason why this shouldn't be over 1,000 by the end of this month, or 2,000 or 3,000, maybe even 4,000. This month is massive, as I've detailed in an article on Mountaineers Now, about not only player or roster retention, but adding guys through the portal, getting the high school class in. There's just so much that goes on this month. And this is really kind of when you win games, really, is in December, because you've got to be able to put the best roster together, and the most of you in the majority of your roster is going to be put together right now, or finalized, I should say. So if you want to have a part in that, I would suggest taking a look at the trust and seeing what possibilities you can go into. So I think it could be better. I think they're in a much better position. Like I said, I don't think you're going to see anybody's big or a big name player enter the portal from West Virginia. It could happen. Don't tell me I was wrong when it happens, because these things are hard to predict. We're talking about 18 to 22 or 23-year-old kids. I don't know how many times I could tell you that I've been told something was going to happen with a certain player, either on the team or in terms or in the recruiting side of it. And yes, it's a 100% definite. And then the next day, something falls through and plans have completely changed. So it's going to be a wild ride for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So buckle up. It's going to be crazy. Like I said, we're going to have full coverage of it on X, and we'll have it on our site also. So we'll have some write ups on the guys that West Virginia's targeting. If you want to look at where they're probably leaning early on in this process, it's the secondary. I mean, I feel like every 2 minutes I'm posting on my X account about them offering a new DB. And it's not shocking. I mean, I think we kind of all predicted that going into this thing. But I would say probably 85 to 90% of these offers that have gone out so far have been to that secondary. You're losing Beanie Bishop, you're losing Malachi Ruffin. Beyond that, there's some question marks. There's a lot of inexperience. You need to have some experienced guys in that room, or else you're going to get carved up. So we'll keep you guys posted throughout the days, and we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So also want to take a second to plug our National Signing Day show, which will happen on December 20th. Again, it's not National Signing Day, but we're gonna stick to that old term, as the early signing period begins on December 20th. Most of West Virginia's high school class will be signed on that day, so we will talk about that. We'll go into great detail about it. We're trying to nail down a couple of interviews for you guys from some of the members of that class. So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to have Eugene Napoleon, former West Virginia running back, on the show. He's going to do a couple of those interviews, I believe. Christopher Hall, site publisher at Mountaineers Now, will be with us as well to break down the class. So make sure you check that out. I think we're aiming for a 6 o'clock release on YouTube and on our site at Mountaineers Now, depending on how fast the upload thing works and the craziness of Wi-Fi and how it likes to not work whenever you want it to or need it to. So, but keep your eyes out for that, and keep your notifications on. If you follow me on X already, go ahead and hit that notification button. I know I probably tweet way more than I should, but at this time of year, it's useful. So I'll try not to flood your notifications as much as I can. So that's going to do it for me here today. I'm Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Ears, and we'll be back maybe tomorrow. We may make this a daily thing, or maybe an every other day thing here over the next couple of weeks, as there's so much going on. And then we'll have the Backyard Brawl on Wednesday night, post-game show with Christopher Hall. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. We couldn't do it without your guys' support. And also make sure to follow us on X at the same handle. We'll see you guys here in a couple of days.